weak man begs for the noise of attention to feel alive. The powerful man sits on the throne of his own silence, knowing that absence is the only ghost that cannot be fought. The modern prince. She ignored you, and in that instant, a part of your ego collapsed in silence. There is something deeply cruel about the way contempt wounds more than hatred, because hatred is still a form of attention. It is a flame, however burning, however hostile. But indifference is the ice that extinguishes any fire, and that is exactly why Machiavelli, were he alive today, would say, "He who seeks to be loved without being feared ends up being forgotten." The mistake of most men is to react. They rush to chase, send messages, seek explanations, and try to convince with words what silence has already decided. It is like trying to relight a candle already submerged in water. Machiavelli would understand that the game of attention is the most dangerous of all, and whoever dominates it dominates the other. When she ignores you, it is not the moment to try to regain affection. It is the moment to understand power. Because ignoring is in itself a strategic move. It is a way to place the other in doubt, to invert the emotional hierarchy. The man who rushes to respond to indifference loses control of the game. Machiavelli would say that all power is born of perception, and what destroys a man is not abandonment, but appearing shaken by it. The prince who loses control in the face of a subject's contempt reveals weakness. The man who despairs at a woman's silence reveals neediness. Both lose authority. Therefore, the response to indifference is never to try to be heard, but to make the other realize that you also know how to disappear. When she pulls away, you must understand that the stage is not the heart, it is the mind. The dispute is not for love, it is for psychological dominance. The woman who ignores you expects a reaction. She wants to feel the power of destabilizing you, and when she realizes she has not succeeded, something inside her begins to crumble. Curiosity is the beginning of the return. The secret is the control of time. He who dominates time dominates the bond. If you respond quickly, you demonstrate need. If you delay, you create attention. If you disappear, you awaken doubt. If you re-emerge in silence, you ignite desire. This is the Machiavellian art of transforming absence into presence. There is no revenge more elegant than well-staged disinterest. But it is not about pretending. It is about understanding the value of your own energy. Machiavelli would say that the power of a ruler lies in never showing himself desperate for approval. And the same applies to the man before a woman. What makes you desirable is not chasing, but appearing unattainable. Human nature is attracted to mystery, not surrender. Excess presence kills desire. It is the unknown that keeps interest alive. So when she ignores you, remember, silence is a weapon, but in the wrong hands, it is a prison. In the right hands, it is a throne. Therefore, do not react. Act. Invest in yourself. Improve your appearance. Expand your mind. Increase your value. Show, without speaking, that your world continues to turn, perhaps even faster without her. The true response to contempt is not to seek acceptance, but to evolve to the point where her return is no longer necessary. When your silence begins to produce noise, when your brilliance begins to outshine the absence she created, the game turns, because all contempt has a limit. There is an instant when the ignored becomes admirable. And when that happens, the woman who once ignored you will start to observe you without understanding where she lost control. And it is in that moment that Machiavelli would smile, because he knew power lies not in conquering love, but in controlling the impact of your presence. The man who dominates his emotions dominates the desire of others, and he who dominates desire governs the game. The worst thing a man can do when ignored is beg for attention, because in doing so, he destroys the mystery that made him interesting. Machiavelli said it is better to be feared than loved if one cannot be both. And in this context, fear is not literal fear, but the respect that is born of uncertainty. Uncertainty is the terrain where desire grows. When she ignores you, she wants to measure you. She wants to know how far your control goes, how much value exists behind your mask. She wants to test if your interest is genuine or just need. And if you fall apart, if you beg for explanations, she understands. The power is now hers. The man who understands the Machiavellian game does not react with despair, but with calculation. He understands that every silence can be used in his favor. When she stops speaking, he does not send a sea of messages. He goes silent. But while he is silent, he moves. He shifts focus, changes the scenery, improves himself. Because the absence that is not occupied with growth transforms into pain. The absence that is filled with evolution becomes force. Machiavelli would say that just as a prince must strengthen his kingdom in times of peace, the man must strengthen his mind in moments of rejection. Because when emotion tries to dominate you, that is where power begins to be born. Every controlled impulse is a step toward your interior sovereignty. The truth is that when a woman realizes your world does not revolve around her, she begins to revolve around your mystery. The human being is attracted to what they do not completely understand. What is easy loses its charm. That which pulls away with calm provokes curiosity, and it is this curiosity that plants desire. But be careful. Silence is only powerful when it comes from one who has value. The silence of the weak is oblivion. The silence of the strong is dominion. So when she ignores you, it is not enough to disappear. You must be reborn. Show signs of evolution. Change your haircut, your look, your rhythm. Let the world perceive that something in you has changed. Not to provoke her, but because you understood that power lies in continuing. Machiavelli believed that the wise ruler is not offended by the betrayal of subjects. He uses it to become more astute. So too must the man act when he is despised. Every rejection is a lesson on human behavior. Every silence is a chance to observe the game from the outside and understand how emotion manipulates the weak. She may not even return, and that is fine, because the true triumph is not having her back, it is not needing her anymore. Machiavelli's victory was never control of the other, it was control of himself. When your value does not depend on the approval of others, no one has the power to shake you anymore. The man who dominates himself becomes unpredictable, and the unpredictable is irresistible. The woman who ignored you will start to ask herself, why didn't he try harder? Why didn't he look for me? Why does he seem so well without me? These questions are small cracks in the wall of indifference, and through them, curiosity begins to infiltrate like water in stone. The mistake would be to try to provoke this reaction directly, because power is not flaunted, it is suggested. The true conqueror does not need to shout to be noticed. He simply exists with such intensity that the world leans in to see him. And that is what she will feel. Your absence will become more present than any word. When she realizes she lost access to your attention, she will begin to want to reconquer it, and the cycle will invert. Because for Machiavelli, power is a mirror. He who tries to control ends up being controlled, and the only way to win is not to compete. Therefore, in the face of contempt, do not fight, do not explain, do not beg, build. The silent power of a man who is at peace with his solitude is more seductive than any promise of love. Because this man does not offer need, he offers abundance. And that is what the world and women desire most. The presence of someone who does not need them to be whole. Silence, when it comes from the right man, is an earthquake. It makes the other side rethink every attitude, every word said, and every message unanswered. The woman who ignored you begins to be tormented not by remorse, but by doubt. And doubt is the slowest and most efficient poison in the Machiavellian game, because while regret is fleeting, doubt consumes. Machiavelli said that men must be either conquered or destroyed, for if only wounded, they can seek revenge. This phrase applied to the emotional field reveals something powerful. Never try to wound someone's ego only halfway. When she ignores you and you respond with petty attitudes, indirects, jealousy, or provocations, you do not win, you equalize yourself. But when you withdraw completely and transform, you destroy her narrative, and that is merciless. She believed she had you in her hands, that ignoring you would be a sure strike to measure how much you care. But when time passes and you do not return, when she sees you improving, smiling, living, power changes sides. She loses the certainty that fed her pride, and that is where the game turns. The man who understands Machiavelli does not seek to avenge himself, he seeks to evolve, because he knows that true vengeance is full indifference. It is looking back and feeling nothing anymore, neither pain nor anger, nor desire to prove value. It is the total dominion of one's own heart. This is the type of power that is not conquered over others, but over oneself. The woman who ignores you can only continue hurting you as long as you need her attention to feel alive. But the day your energy comes from within and not from without, no one will be able to manipulate you anymore. Her silence will cease to be a threat and will become a simple detail of the past. Machiavelli would teach that the world is moved by perceptions, not by truths. So while she believes power lies in ignoring you, you construct the opposite perception, that power lies in not being shaken. It is a silent but devastating theater. The audience is the human unconscious, and in it, whoever seems more stable always wins. You must understand that seduction is a cold war. It is not won by attack, but by strategy. Victory is not in having more strength, but in having more calm. And this calm is what differentiates the common man from the Machiavellian man. The common man begs for answers. The Machiavellian creates the type of silence that demands explanations. When she ignores you, maintain your posture. Do not treat her with feigned coldness, nor with desperate kindness. Treat her with serenity. Speak little, look less, and smile like one who carries secrets. Mystery is the oldest form of dominion. If she realizes nothing shakes you, she will begin to try to break that wall, first with curiosity, then with provocation, and finally with approach. But when this happens, you must not run to her arms like a tired soldier returning from war. Machiavelli would say, "Never show the enemy how much your victory cost you." So do not show how much she affected you. Receive her return with naturalness, like one who did not expect it, but is also not surprised. Be cordial, but not excited. Show that she no longer has the same power. And above all, do not fall into the error of thinking the game is over, because power, once conquered, needs to be maintained. Controlled indifference is the most sophisticated instrument of emotional power. It is not about being cold, but about being conscious, knowing when to be silent, when to act, when to disappear, and principally knowing when to let the other miss you. Because the truth is that human love, like political power, feeds on contrast. The value of something is only perceived when it is lost. So when she ignores you and you also disappear, she will begin to remember, and every memory will be a reminder of your absence. Machiavelli would say that human nature is ungrateful and fickle, but also predictable. And it is this predictability that you must use. When she feels she has lost control over you, the natural instinct will be to try to recover it. It is in this moment that power changes owners, and then arrives the most silent point of the war. The moment she observes you without knowing if she lost you. It is a brief instant, but full of power. You do not need to say anything. You do not need to prove anything. The simple fact of existing in peace is already an affront to her pride, because now she who ignores you begins to feel ignored. And Machiavelli would smile because he would understand. The throne has switched sides. Power changes hands without a word being said. And that is where the true lesson reveals itself. The game was never about her, nor about noticing you, loving you, or accepting you. It was always about you learning to dominate yourself. Because while the common man fights to be noticed, the man who understands power learns not to need an audience. Machiavelli said that the prince must appear just, even if he is not, strong, even if he doubts, constant, even if the world around him is in ruins. This is the essence of irresistible presence, the capacity to transmit security when everyone expects weakness. That is why when she ignores you, your greatest gesture is not to react. It is to remain whole. And remaining whole is difficult because the mind will scream. It will push you to try to resolve the silence with words, messages, justifications. But power lives in the dominion of your urgency. Every time you control the impulse to react, you reinforce your interior fortress. And when the world sees a calm man in the face of rejection, the world respects him, even if it does not understand him. She may test you again. Try to measure how far your coldness goes. Reappear with compliments disguised as curiosity, and the weak man would yield, believing he finally won. But the Machiavellian man understands. The return is just another test, and victory is not in having her back, but in continuing to be who he became without her, because the ignorance of others does not define your value. True power is being light in the midst of contempt. It is walking alone without losing one's own brilliance. Machiavelli would say that the most feared ruler is the one who does not depend on the loyalty of others to stand firm. So too is the man who does not need love to feel alive. One day, she will look at you and realize that something has changed. The same look that before sought to confirm your despair will now find peace. And that peace will bother more than any provocation, because it is the sign that you have freed yourself. And he who frees himself is no longer controllable. True power is silent, almost invisible. It does not shout, it does not demand, it does not beg. It only manifests in the way you walk, speak, in the way your silence weighs more than the speech of one who tries to wound you. This is the power that Machiavelli would admire, the power of the man who knows himself. And deep down, life is a board of perceptions. Every relationship, a territory. Every emotion, an army. The man who reacts loses soldiers. The man who observes conquers kingdoms. Because in love, as in politics, haste is the enemy of strategy. So, if a woman ignores you, just do this. Say nothing. Do not try to prove. Do not explain yourself. Transform her silence into fertile soil for your growth. While she ignores you, read, train, work, take care of your body, mind, and presence. Transform rejection into fuel, because nothing is more seductive than a man who evolves in the exact moment when they expected him to collapse. Time is the judge of all games, and it always favors those who know how to wait. Machiavelli said that destiny favors the bold, but the bold is not the impatient. It is the one who dares to maintain control when everyone loses their head. You will realize at some point on the path that you no longer think of her with pain. You will remember without weight, smile with lightness, and in that instant, you will understand that power was not to reconquer, but to transcend. The woman who ignored you taught you the most valuable of secrets, that contempt is just an invitation to awaken. Without realizing it, she was the trigger that lit your strength, and you are now the man who walks alone, not out of pride, but out of consciousness. Machiavelli would end the lesson with a cold and serene smile. He who controls emotions controls the world. And you finally understood what that means, because the world now no longer turns around her, it turns around your own axis.